Welcome to my video on game-based learning. Learned a lot about this interesting topic, and hopefully by the end of this slideshow you will have learned a few things as well. So let's get into it, shall we? So this is a video, as you can see here, for my Education 5103 Integration of Instructional Design and Information Technology. My name is Jamie Robotham. I'm doing my master's in education with a focus on instruction technology. My main university is University of Newfoundland and Labrador, but it's a conjoint master's also with University of Cape Breton, and this is where this course is actually from. And currently it is March 2018, just to give you a perspective on the information that you're going to hear here. So our first distinction that we should make here is the difference between game-based learning and gamification. So game-based learning is what you think it is, using games to achieve an instructional goal. So if you're using a game and the kids are learning something, then you're doing game-based learning. So an example, Minecraft, a classic example, but it's important to get that distinction that board games are also game-based learning. It's not just video games that are game-based learning. If you're using any game at all, really, you're doing game-based learning. Gamification, though, slightly different. That would be you're adding game-like elements to learning. So if you're tracking your learner's progress, if you're racing to see who's going to the end, if they've got a level, any sort of gaming thing, an element of games in your teaching, then that's considered gamification. So let's get into some lingo, shall we? The first term I'd like to introduce is commercial games. So these are games that you think of when you think of game-based learning. More or less, Minecraft would be a classic example. This is Civilizations, one that would be probably really good for social studies, maybe some economics. So a game that its primary goal is not to teach but to entertain. That's a commercial game. Serious games, on the other hand, are games whose primary goal is not entertainment. So Microsoft Flight Sim is an example that's been around for a long time. This one, I assume, is being used to teach some medicine. So you can have a game, virtual surgery ones. I know some of them are more gamey, but you can have one whose primary goal is not to entertain. So a multi-user virtual environment is like the picture below. It's well, an example anyway. It is a place where multiple people can log in. Usually they have an avatar, which they can hopefully customize to make it more personalized for them. And we can be together in a virtual space, even though maybe the users are far removed from each other. This is a picture of World of Warcraft, which is it's a commercial game, but it's another multi-user virtual environment. People can interact with each other, and if I wanted to teach a science lesson with my students, if they all logged in World of Warcraft, we could do that. With designing games, it's not just coding. You could make a board game for game-based learning, and it's not coding, but coding is really being pushed right now. Designing your own games, particularly in young kids, getting them started early with coding is a major push, and it's seen as a skill that's transferable, that they're going to need for those jobs that everybody talks about that don't exist yet when they get into the workforce. So why use game-based learning at all? What is the literature saying? What are the benefits? Well, the main one would be improve engagement for the student. Most people can attest to how much time students spend gaming. If we could use those powers for good and get them to learn when they're not knowing that they're learning, that would be the ultimate goal, I think. But games-based learning is self-paced. So it's individualized. If someone learns quicker than the other, they can move ahead quicker. If someone is taking a little bit more time, they can do that. It's a very powerful aspect of games-based learning. Alternate paths for assessment is another one. Most games track all your performance, so you can use their interaction time in a game as a form of assessment. A lot of powerful analytics are built into games as well, specifically the serious games that are not based on entertainment solely, but even most serious games are tracking just about everything that your user does. So if you can get access to that, you can use that to your advantage. And lastly, the one I wanted to touch on here was the problem solving, which again is a future skill like I talked about before. It's a great way for students to learn that skill going forward. So why hasn't games-based learning taken off? Why aren't we all doing it all the time? One of the main forces, of course, is the teacher. What do teachers think about technology? How tech savvy are you? Um, what do teachers think about games? Students are on games all the time. Should we really be spending part of our day making them game and having more screen time than they already do? How do you pick the right game? And the right method was cited a lot. Teachers want to do the best activities for their students. So how do you do a game-based learning activity? And lastly, there needs to be a critical mass of grassroots educators in order to get this off the ground. Right now, not enough people, I guess, really believe in it in order to get it into the mainstream. So the concept of flow came up a lot during the research that I did in game-based learning, and it makes total sense once I got into it because games induce flow. If your time flies while you're having fun. If you're having fun and you're not really concerned about anything else, all your attention is focused on the task at hand, then time can slip away from you, and that's the ultimate goal for education. I think if we can get into that flow state, then we can learn a lot in a short period of time. So how do we make game-based learning more effective? Adding scaffolds was a thing that we saw a lot on the way through, and that would be hard scaffolds like the picture below, putting questions directly into the game, and soft scaffolds like the picture here where they collaborate and talk to each other about what they're doing. And so it's a totally new medium. Users are the active participant. It's very different. Where it's more like teachers as the facilitator than teachers as educator. So thank you for making it to the end of my video. I plan on uploading this to YouTube. So as they say, please like and subscribe. The picture here, I'm wondering if you guys know what game that it's from. So if you do know or you think you know, please place a comment at the bottom of the video with what you think. All right, thank you very much.